Michael here, and in this video journal I'll update you on what I've been doing in the shop. The two guitars that I've been working on do have some lacquer on them now. Unfortunately, the weather has not cooperated for me and I have been unable to finish them out. They're drying and I'm going to wet sand them and see if that's enough lacquer that I've got on before I go ahead and buff them on out. I live in the Gulf Coast and it's humid here all the time, and this year the weather just hasn't cooperated. As a matter of fact, this year we had 7.5 inches of snow, which is something that hasn't happened here for over 50 years. I've also been working on some fingerboard inlays, and I want to show you what I'm doing with those. And if there's enough interest later on, I'll do a more in-depth video journal series on how I actually do my inlays, from the design on the computer to the cutting them out to the final product. So keep watching. So I have gone ahead and joined some backs and tops, and this is a book matched set of figured Amazique. I don't know if you can really see that figure that's in there, but it's really nicely flamed. I got a board big enough that I've got two bodies out of that for that wood. And I have a koa. The koa is going to be one of the ones that gets that fingerboard. And on this koa, I'm also going to put an inlay right up here on the body. And that'll match real well with the fingerboard. It's the same hummingbird, actually. And I do have a quilted mahogany. And then I have some spruce tops. So these are Sitka spruce tops that I book matched, and they're just ready for the next step, which is going to be putting them through the drum sander and thinning them down, getting rid of my seams, and then I can start cutting out the sound hole rosettes. I'm making two guitars at the same time, and I'm going to use the same inlay pattern on the second as well. But I've neglected to, or I've missed one of the pieces that I need to finish it out, and that's this little bud right here, which is going to be made out of pearl. And so I've got to cut one more little bud out before I can finish gluing this fingerboard up that I'm working on. So I thought I might just show you all how I do that. The first thing I do is I just take a little piece of wood. This is a little 5x5 square of just some thin 3-ply plywood, hobby plywood, and I glue my pieces of pearl to it. Now this piece of pearl I've already used before, and I've gotten some pieces out of it, but there's plenty of pearl left here for me to go ahead and cut this other little piece out. So what I do is I take this piece, put it on my scanner, and scanned it in, and then I go over to just a little program and crop it down till it's precisely the same size. Getting a little closer here. Okay, that's good. Now I can go back over to my program, and now I can locate the pieces that I need. I'm going to take this little guy, and I'm going to copy it, and then go ahead and turn these off. So there's my little piece that I need cut out, and I'm just going to go ahead and position it on my pearl where it needs to be, and I'm actually going to make two of them just in case. And that should, okay, so it's going to cut those two out for me. What I need to do is take this and save it as a G-code and take it over to my CNC and cut those last two pieces out. Okay, there's my two pieces. One spare, ready to go. Well, I've gotten one of the fingerboards inlaid. All the pearl and abalone pieces are in their slots, glued in, and I've got them all sanded down flush with the fingerboard. When I designed this inlay pattern, I stopped the pearl pieces just short of the 12th fret so that I wouldn't have to saw through all those pieces.
The pieces that are the actual vine are only 1/32 of an inch wide, so they're very thin, small little pieces. I do a trial cut on all of my fingerboard inlay patterns before I actually cut the ebony, and it also allows me to select the pieces and put them in the spots that they're going to be when I put them into the ebony fingerboard. And now I'm just going to go ahead and finish gluing in the pearl and abalone pieces on this ebony fingerboard right here. Now there are 5 pieces of pearl and abalone that make up one flower, and the entire flower would fit inside the diameter of a dime, so we're dealing with small pieces here. That first piece that I put in is mother of pearl. This next piece is made out of abalone shell, and then the last 2 pieces are also made out of mother of pearl. The difference between the 2 colors and the fact that there are many different pieces makes the light refract off them and really makes it look real pretty. Once I get everything in the pocket, I want to make sure that the top of the pearl and the abalone pieces rest above the top of the fingerboard. I want to sand the pearl down to the fingerboard. I don't want to have the pearl be lower than the fingerboard pieces is once I get done. Cleaning out the slot for the vine piece and putting one of the little buds in. The vine piece itself is only 1/32 of an inch wide, and so it's a really thin piece. I've got to be careful not to break it or snap it in half while I put it in. Sometimes it needs a little judicious sanding on just here and there, just to make sure it fits down properly into the slot. So here I'm just sanding it down, little areas that are catching on something there. Once I get it where I can fit it in there, then I will check and see if it's going to be high enough for me. And it looks like this one is going to have a little bit of going to be raised up a little bit. See, it's my blade is sliding across the top of it, so I've got to add some ebony dust to the slot itself. And I'm sorry that camera has gone out of focus there on the top frame, but I'm just putting some ebony dust into the slot that the vine piece is going to rest in, and then with a small paintbrush, I'm just going to distribute that evenly within the slot so that I can get that pearl vine piece to rest just above the height of the fingerboard. And then once I've gotten that done, I'll go ahead and do my last little test fit, make sure that it is indeed where I need it to be. And then my last little leaf for this section. And it looks like it's going to be just fine as far as its height goes. Then I can take some super glue, which is actually comes, the place I get it from, it comes black, and it's not the watery thin, but really the next step up. So it will wick down in between all those cracks between the side of the fingerboard and the pearl pieces, and between the pearl pieces and each other, and just rest on in there. And once it dries, I'll be ready to go ahead and sand it all down. Well, all of the inlays are now glued in and dried overnight on this fingerboard, and now I just need to level the inlays themselves down to the surface of the fingerboard. So I've got a little clamp here, and it's also clamped in my bench vise. Then I'm just going to start sanding with some radius sanding beams. This is a 16-inch radius sanding beam, which matches the radius of my fingerboard. And I'm just going to go in here and go ahead and just sand down. Well, I switched over to another radius sanding beam, and this one has 220 on it. So here's the fingerboard inlays, all sanded down smooth. Go ahead and clean up some of that excess dust and stuff, and put a little lemon oil on it, and it should really make the inlay pop. All right, so here's 2 fingerboards ready and inlaid and fret slots cut. They're ready for the next step. I've got to start building on the guitars now, but at least I've gotten my fingerboard inlays done.
Well, I'll stop the video journal here. That was an update of what I've been up to in the shop. Got some new builds started and still working on the 3-piece walnut and the rosewood that I'm not quite done with yet. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe and let me know. If you've got comments or questions, please send those in. Any videos that you'd like to see me do.